Hello everybody, my name is Szabolcs Kisspál. I'm an artist from Budapest, Hungary, and I'm gonna introduce you into one of my work, which was produced in 2016, and the title of it is From Fake Mountains to Fate. Before giving you this introduction, let me just give you some details about my background and about the context I'm working in. So I'm an artist and teacher living in Hungary, even though I've been born in Transylvania, which is in Romania. This is usually, it's not that important when it comes to my works, but it might be very important in reference to this particular work. And throughout my career, I've been dealing with different medium. And part of my studies I conducted in Romania, and I moved and settled in Hungary about 30 years ago, which was just a few years after the system change, and this particular detail might be of importance a bit later. Okay. And then at the beginning of my career, I was mostly working with, I became very interested in media issues, the so-called new media, which was at that time is a kind of very interesting field. Then I produced different installations, media installations, and later on I produced many videos. And around 2000 and in the middle of the years of 2005, 2006, I started to be interested in political issues. But these issues appeared more as topics in my work. And then I kept on thinking how I could move on to a different practice, which addresses political issues, but it also works with political, let's say, quantities or political kind of material more than to just expose them as topics. And unfortunately for this, there was a very special situation in Hungary, because in 2010, a kind of new government came into power, which made me think of moving my practice more towards a kind of activist context. So for quite many years, between 2012 and 2016, I was very much involved in artistic activism, cultural activism. And I even suspended to some extent to work on my kind of traditional art kind of practice. And actually, this it is also a kind of description of the context I wanted to give you an introduction to, because this particular piece I'm gonna speak about has a lot to do with the actual political context of Hungary, which has been installed almost 10 years ago, and it brought significant change in the life of, let's say, of all the Hungarians, but most of all, and first of all, in the life of the cultural workers in Hungary, and brought up on the surface many issues which then I started to think, and I got very much engaged with. So this this engagement actually, as I already mentioned, it's been on one side a kind of activist work. But then later on, as we went on with this very demanding position and work of the activism, which means like you would be engaged 24 hours a day with different communication and setting up actions and so on. And we, all of us, the groups I've been working with, I've been involved in the work of several activist groups, and then all of us, we got very tired. And then I thought at some point that I should quit this activist work, mostly because throughout these years we just realized that whatever engagement we have, and no matter how much energy we put into trying to stop different processes, different political and social processes, we just could not properly do that. So on one hand, this tiredness, and on the other hand, the seemingly senselessness of our activity kind of brought me back to the, let's say, artistic work, and I was trying to find different other ways how to comment, how to research, and how to go more into the background of this particular ideology, which came into light in 2010 with the election of the Fidesz party and with the rise of Viktor Orbán as prime minister. To give you a bit more details about how and why this whole turn in the Hungarian society and politics might have happened, maybe it is important for us to go back to the end of 1980s, like 1989, actually 1990. When, as all around Central Europe, the system change took place. And that's been a process which happened also in Hungary. And for sure, for the first years, right after the system change, which were really the years of a very optimistic kind of social environment, and everyone wanted to do some new thing, and all of us were just very, very excited about the times that came. At the very beginning, for sure, the establishment of different parties, of all kinds of negotiations with the civil society, with the whole society. Actually, it's been a very, very interesting process. And then, for sure, for I would say for more than 10 years, more than 15 years, different ideologies would kind of follow each other. And all through this period, actually, the Hungarian society was kind of looking for some sort of way towards their imagined future. And actually, what happened in 2010, which was actually like around 20 years after the system change, that the whole society got pretty much disappointed with the outcome of the system change. They got disappointed with the fact that certain ruling elites, which were before in power during the socialist period of the Hungarian history, they just couldn't find the proper balance, and there was a lot of disappointment in many areas, in many fields of the social life, and that made possible actually the rise of this new nationalism. And actually, this new nationalism has been the topic which I started to focus on. And then I started to dig a bit in the background of it, and I tried to find the motivations, and I tried to find the kind of I would say the psychology that is behind this ideology, which has been named by the leader of this ideology, Viktor Orbán himself. It's been named as the system of illiberal democracy. So the illiberal democracies are systems which are neither free nor non-free, so they are somehow in between. They lack the civil liberties, and they cannot be considered open societies. And the classical example of an illiberal democracy, it is considered Singapore, for instance. but many other countries, many other systems in the past 10, 15 years could be added to this group of systems, including Turkey and even Russia. And the relationship of Hungary with Russia, it is rather special. Because before '89, Hungary was having Russian troops stationing in Hungary as a result of the 1956 revolution, which was crashed actually by the Russian army in Hungary, and the Russian army stayed. So one of the big achievements of the system change was actually the departure of the Russian troops. And what is very controversial in the whole ideology of the actual system is that, in spite of the fact that there is a very strong anti-communist agenda and rhetorics, this anti-communist agenda at the very beginning, it's been even very anti-Russian. At the same time, this later character in the let's say past 5-6 years has pretty much changed. So the anti-Russian character disappeared. The anti-communist kind of attitude, or rhetorics, it's still there. And because of all these kind of this complex background of how this particular ideology got shaped, I became very interested in finding out the historical roots of this ideology, and I started to research on how this particular ideology came into light, and actually what stands behind it. And I became especially interested in this because at that time, let's say 2013, 14, one could already see some very similar processes taking place all around Europe and later on even in the United States. So I thought that I'm going to construct a work which deals with these issues and which tries to track actually the motivations of this particular ideology by going back in time and by trying to understand the historical context in which the Hungarian new nationalism it is being rooted. And I decided to create a work which would take Hungary as a case study, actually, while seeing that the paradigm promoted by the Fidesz party, it is getting more and more widely used around the world. So I decided to create a work which is a research-based work. It is entitled From Fake Mountains to Fate. And it is a research-based docufiction, which means I worked on the research part of it more than 2.5 years. I was collecting all kinds of historical data. And then for sure, I kind of completed the historical data with a certain amount of fictitious elements. On which I will come back maybe a bit later with details. Nonetheless, the first articulation of this research was in the form of a kind of a written piece with images. It's been a contribution into a magazine in 2012, when I got an invitation to take part in a publication published in London, and which was about the zoo architecture. And while doing this research, actually I came across some very, very interesting connections between the interwar period of Hungary and the zoo architecture, a connection which I would have never thought that it's there. But somehow throughout the research it came in, and that led actually to the articulation of this project, which was entitled at that time Amorous Geography. And from this particular written contribution, in 2012, a short video has been made. And following my kind of deception in the, let's say, activist work, when I decided to go back to my art practice, in 2016, I decided to take this particular video and the topic around the topics discussed in this video, and to develop it into a much larger installation, a much larger work, which I managed to complete with the help of a German grant, which I got from an institution called Editrus House for Media Arts in Oldenburg, Germany. The way you can access this work, actually, it is through a website, and this is the link. Probably you were forwarded already. So I will try to give you a few guidelines about the structure of the work in order for you to access it much more easier. Okay. So the work, it is being structured. The full title of the work, it is From Fake Mountains to Fate, Hungarian trilogy. And as the name says, it is about a trilogy. It has 3 main parts. The 3 main parts in the terms of medium, there are 2 longer videos, about 20 minutes long videos, and then there is a spatial installation, which is it's like a fake or pseudo museum display, which contains objects and many other things. Nonetheless, all 3 parts, they kind of try to articulate certain characteristic topics which I found that are very important in understanding what the illiberal democracy is and where from it comes. Okay, and in the first video, which I already mentioned briefly previously, which is entitled Amorous Geography, actually it speaks about how the landscape it is being appropriated and how it is being made, how it is being included as a part of political fantasy, and how the politics takes over the landscape in order to convert it into an ideological element. The second part of it is a research into a very important historical political symbol, Hungarian symbol, which is called turul. It refers to a certain bird which has played an important role in the mythical history of Hungary. And it tries to kind of articulate how this particular symbol has been changing throughout the times, and how it has been appropriated by the far right and the moderate right in order to express a certain exclusionist sort of concept of nation. The exclusionist concept of nation, it could be stated that it is somehow it's the main point in the whole trilogy, but maybe it is the most articulated in this second part. Both of these videos are using making use of archival elements. I was researching a lot to find these footages, mostly coming from the interwar period of Hungary. And the interwar period of Hungary, it is very important from the point of view of the present ideology, because the leader of this interwar period, the Christian nationalist leader called Admiral Horthy, he can be considered as a kind of role model for Viktor Orban, even though his historical significance, it is disputed and is it is subject to many debates. Actually, he is considered a kind of controversial leader, especially because throughout the interwar period, actually many small shifts took place in the Hungarian society and history. And unfortunately, these shifts, starting from the end of the First World War, marked by the Trianon Treaty, which I'm going to come back a bit later on. It is a very important, very dramatic, and very kind of broadly discussed, even though tabooized sort of element of the Hungarian history. Starting from this point, this happened in 1920. Starting from this point until the Second World War, when Hungary joined the war on the side of Germany, development took place in which the full exclusion of a certain group, of a certain strata from the Hungarian society took place. This was actually the Jewish population of Hungary. So for that reason, I put quite a high emphasis in my work on this process, how this exclusion actually took place, and how actually gradually the idea of creating a nation based on exclusion, it's an exclusivist kind of nation building unfolded in these times. And actually, what is the sad experience? What was the sad experience throughout my research was to find out that actually all the ideological elements being in use right now in the Hungarian political rhetorics can be traced back to this interwar period of Hungary, which, as I mentioned, linked these two very tragical historical events, the Trianon Treaty on one hand in 1920 and the Second World War with the Hungarian Holocaust in 1944. For those of you who might not be familiar with Hungarian history, I would just like to speak very short about the Trianon Treaty, which plays a rather important role in my piece. The Trianon Treaty was the treaty that closed the First World War, and it's been the treaty, the peace treaty in between Hungary and the Allied power. And actually, it had tragical consequences for Hungary in the sense that more than 2/3 of its territory, of the territory of the former Hungarian kingdom, and about the same amount, the same proportion of its former population has been, to put it like that, shut out of the country. So it's been distributed around the neighboring countries. For sure, these territories, including Transylvania, the place I was born in, these territories were not fully Hungarian territories, as you can find out from the Amherst geography, the first part of the trilogy. There were, all of them were mixed ethnicities, small societies. And after the First World War, because of various political and historical reasons, these have been distributed. So it's been a very, very dramatic and tragical event for the Hungarian society, which the Hungarian society, I must say, has been never able to particularly cope with. And even now, even today, this event generates many controversies, generates many controversial feelings. It fuels, to a large extent, the nationalist movements, even now and back then in the interwar period as well. So it is a very complex historical event, which one can feel the effects of even in the present times. And it's the same issue with the Hungarian Holocaust, which caused many controversies and many pain, many sufferance, many unspoken frustration within the Hungarian societies. And the actual government, what tries to do in its overall kind of political discourse, it is to try to address these issues, especially the Trianon Treaty issue, in a way that I would say it is pretty much the similar as it's been throughout the interwar period, in which revisionist politics was built up actually with all its institutions. And the third part of my trilogy, which is entitled The Chasm Records. It is a fictitious archaeological find, actually, which consists of about 70 genuine objects, the majority of which comes from, they are historically genuine objects from the interwar period. And a few objects has been made by me, but it also contains different documents, and it contains about 11 small videos as well. So it is a rather large body of work, which actually describes how a certain syncretic religious sort of attitude, which has been characteristic to the Hungarian society from, let's say, in the past 100 years, I would even think, and how this syncretic religious feeling, which got mixed with a kind of nationalist, revisionist agenda, led to a certain kind of setting, which I would call kind of a new nationalist political religion. And actually, if you go through the objects of this third part, the Chasm Records, then at the end of it, you can find some documents which speaks about the kind of deification of Viktor Orban. To what extent the people, the supporters of the actual system, they consider Viktor Orban as they approach him through some kind of religiosity. Okay, and so that's the kind of the short, let's say, substance of this third part of the work. Altogether, the whole trilogy, it is a very, I would say, a very complex work, and as it contains 2 long videos, and it contains this third part, which in itself there are 11 more shorter videos and objects, many descriptions, many elements and references, which might not be that obvious for a viewer outside Hungary who is not familiar with the Hungarian history. In spite of the fact that in my work I mostly deal with many references to Hungarian history, which, as I mentioned before, there might be not that easy to access for the international audience. The piece itself, the reception of the piece was extremely positive. It's been, up to now, it's been shown in 11 times in various countries, from Estonia to Germany and to Ireland and many parts, Poland. And what was very interesting experience throughout these exhibitions, that wherever the piece went, actually the people were able to to access it for various reasons, somehow, which has to do maybe also with the method of the piece, which I'm gonna come back later, but also with because in so many places the let's say the anatomy of how these ideologies are being constructed, from which elements and what elements they are being built up, are very, very similar. And for that reason, that's one of the reasons I guess that the piece had a very, very positive reception in actually in all the instances it has been shown. And I would always add, when speaking about the piece, that probably the other reason that the piece got very popular all around Europe was actually because of Viktor Orban himself, whom I, a bit ironically, I would call one of my closest collaborator in this work. Because in the meantime, since the piece has been completed in 2016 until now, actually he pretty much managed to build up a fame for himself all around Europe and all around the world, I must say. So for that reason, I think in many places people are very, very much interested to try to find out what is behind the thinking of this politician and what is behind this politics in general. And as some closing remarks, let me just add a few references to the method I've been using, which, besides the piece being a research-based kind of docufiction, I also applied in it certain kind of, let's say, historical methodology, which I found important to kind of construct into a sort of counter fiction. So for that reason, I decided not to make a documentary, but to rather construct kind of a docufiction, because actually the way how this particular ideology constructs the present, it is in a way connected to the construction of the past as well, and to the reconstruction of the past, to re-narrating the past in a certain way. And you can find the results of this all around Hungary. All the public spaces are being kind of changed, converted, in order to change and to manipulate the collective memory. So very kind of fictitious past, actually, it is being articulated and it is being promoted by this ideology. So therefore I thought that the proper tool to counteract this fictionalizing the past kind of attitude of the actual government and actual ideology is to build a counter fiction. So I consider, in, let's say, one word or one sentence, I would consider my work research-based docufiction, which kind of articulates a counter fiction to the new nationalist ideology.